Hello, and welcome to the Denby Stories podcast, where in this first episode, I, Laura Mooker, will be speaking to the author, entrepreneur, and good friend Tara Button about her new campaign with Denby Pottery. Founder of the sustainable website Buy Me Once, Tara is leading a movement to change the way we live and shop. Tara has created a set of tips for Denby's Conscious Choice campaign that are centred around sustainability, ceramics beyond the kitchen, and gifting. Today, I'll be speaking to Tara about these tips and the small changes that we can make in our daily lives to move away from the throwaway culture we currently live in and make more conscious choices. Hi, Tara.
Hello.
So, I thought I would start by asking, why do we buy so much stuff?
It's a very good question, Laura. I think that we buy so much stuff because we are constantly being told everywhere we look to buy more stuff. Essentially, every billboard, every magazine, everything we see on television, obviously, everything we see on our phones, everything our family tells us is buy more, please, get me this. You need this to be happy. You need this to be popular. You need this to be able to accept yourself. And I think there's a huge amount of pressure just from society in general to get you to buy more things. And it's not necessarily the things that are going to serve you well or bring the most happiness, sadly.
I totally agree. It's not what I'm going to say the whole way through. I recently moved my email server so that I didn't get adverts flashing up because I was just like, God, can't I even write an email without adverts? Leave me alone.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really good step. If you want to make more conscious choices, it's to have a look at the messages that you are receiving every day and try to filter out as many as possible, because it will be affecting you and it will be affecting your mood and it'll be affecting your day-to-day life. So I think it's important to try and block as many as you can, but then seek out the information that you do want to get from the brands and from the companies that you do respect.
So on that, how do you try and make sure that you're buying things that are clever purchases from brands that you trust?
The first thing you need to do is really think about your life, because I think we get a lot of messages that maybe for the person that you think you are or you want to be, or, you know, maybe one day might happen. But I think it's really important to think about your life now and to think about, you know, what are you actually going to use, what's relevant to you. I mean, for example, I bought like 9 of those baking trays for muffins a few years back because I wanted to be the type of person that baked lots of muffins, but that just wasn't me. So thinking about the life that you actually have rather than the life you're being told you should have, I think is really important. So that's the first step. But the second step is to do the research on the companies that you respect, and there'll be some places like Buy Me Once who do the research for you. You can spend the time yourself, but otherwise look for aggregators like Buy Me Once that, you know, have done the research first so that you know that you're getting an ethical, sustainable brand.
I have to be honest, I'm a bit offended because you didn't make me one single muffin when you had 9 trays. Do you still have those trays?
Well, no, because I'm bright enough now to realise that that's not the life you need. And actually, it's just clutter in my kitchen. So it's very much a resolution of mine to only buy the things that I need and only keep the things that I need. And it makes for a much calmer home, I find.
So in the kitchen, how do you make sure that you have things that are going to last, maybe in ceramics or pottery, for example?
Yeah, so when it comes to ceramics, and I think this is the reason why we're talking about Denby today, you really want to think about what will you use on a regular basis. And I think a lot of people think they have to get the whole set of something, and they'll kind of, you know, there's something quite magical about the idea of having the teapot and the milk jug. But if you don't actually have tea on a regular basis, that's definitely not something you should do. So, you know, buying for the life that you have within ceramics, I think, is really important. So, for example, if you have tapas on a regular basis, a set of nesting bowls is a really great idea, and it's very versatile so that you can use it for, little nibbly bits, when you've got friends around, and you can use it for other meals as well. If that's not the life you have, then don't do that. But if it is, then you definitely should. So it's about looking at your life and actually doing the research on yourself to find out who you are so that you can make better purchasing choices.
I have a tea set that is sitting in a cupboard that I've been planning to throw out, but haven't brought myself to because it's so beautiful. But I don't have tea like that. I have a mug of tea. So after this, I'm going to go and sort that out.
Well, then display it. If that's the reason you have that tea set, then turn it into an ornament, mount it somewhere.
I'm not a displaying tea kind of person, but yes, I hear your point. I think I'll be throwing it out. Do you want a tea set? It's really nice.
I suggest donate it, Laura.
Okay,
there are many great charities out there that I'm sure would love your tea set.
So my grandma always used to say, I'm too poor to buy cheap. But one criticism that is made of things that last for life is that they're expensive. What do you say to that?
Well, it's true that if you buy high quality, you get what you pay for. And therefore, it does mean that a long-lasting product will cost a bit more upfront in general. However, what's really clear from all the research that I've done at Buy Me Once is that over time, you save money because you're not having to buy the same shoddy thing again and again. It won't break as quickly. And therefore, in terms of lifetime value or price per use or price per year, you're actually making money. And I think it's really important to remember that when you're thinking about buying anything.
So, but what if you don't have like a massive lump sum? Do you buy less, say, nesting bowls? And then when you have a bit more cash down the line, you get a few more?
Yes, I think we've got out of the habit, sadly, of saving up for things. But actually, it's a really great way of actually figuring out whether you do really need something or how much you want something. We're so impulsive nowadays. We're so used to impulse buying. About 50% of our purchases are impulse purchases. But when you have a purchase and it's not an impulse purchase, actually it ends up meaning a lot more. Like I slept on the floor of my bedroom for 4 months so that I could save up for the dream bed that I wanted. Obviously, I could have got a cheap, shoddy bed instead. But now I have a bed that's going to last me a lifetime, and that's so much more meaningful. But, if budget is a problem, then I would say buy secondhand, but invest into the brands that are lifetime brands in a secondhand way. And that's a way of getting around the upfront cost.
I totally hear you, but isn't it annoying when you buy a couple of nesting bowls and then they stop selling the nesting bowls and you're like, I was working towards my complete tapas collection, but now I can't have them? Then what do you do?
Yes, well, that would be annoying.
Yes.
I think actually one of the reasons why Buy Me Once appreciates Denby is because they'll tell you if something's going to go out of style. So if you have been building up your collection, which is what I would suggest people do if money is tight, is to build up things piece by piece, and actually as maybe your family expands or as you do more entertaining, then add to those pieces so that you're building up a collection rather than just assuming you're going to need all of it. The great thing about Denby is that they will tell you if the style that you've chosen is going to go out of stock, and therefore you can fill up for the rest of the things that you were expecting to need in the future.
That's satisfying.
It is.
I can imagine a scenario where I would be binge buying nesting bowls in a panic in response to their email. No! Quick! Another thing that I've been thinking about recently is how can I live more sustainably?
Yeah, so I think this is something that luckily more and more people are interested in, and not a moment too soon, because we have a hashtag climate emergency and it's actually incredibly serious. And I think what is very noticeable is that people are kind of panicking and they don't really know what to do, and they don't know really what's going to be the most effective things to do. So to break it down, the most effective things you can do is switch your energy tariff to a renewable energy. cut down on your air travel and car travel, or try to offset those things. And then obviously cut down on meat consumption. Those are like the big three. But then the fourth one is literally cut down on your consumption levels and really think about what you're buying. And this is what obviously I'm focused on. And I think that anywhere in your life where you have something that you're constantly throwing away, something disposable, look for an alternative. Look for a long-lasting alternative. So, if you're using coffee cups all the time out and about, try and get a reusable coffee cup. If you're using throwaway sandwich bags in the freezer, try and look for an option that you can put in the freezer. And Denby have that kind of thing within their range, something that can go from the freezer to the oven. And that one piece then takes the place of a whole load of throwaway rubbish. And that's really important.
I think I've got stainless steel Tupperware that I bought from Buy Me Once.
Excellent.
I say bought, I borrowed it, but I love it and I'm never giving it back. It's genuinely amazing.
You totally stole that.
Yeah, I know. No, borrowed. It's fine. As part of that whole living sustainably thing, what are the reasons not to buy something? Because I think we're given so many reasons to buy everything. How do we counteract that with reasons against?
One of the worst reasons to buy something is because a celebrity has it. And this is something I talk about in my book. I think if you admire somebody who is famous or a celebrity, I think it's really easy to look at something they have and kind of the aura of the celebrity that you admire kind of rubs off on the object. But unfortunately, the handbag doesn't come with Jennifer Lawrence attached to it. That would be awesome because I think she's great. But it's really important to kind of make a kind of split between the persona and the object. And I have quite a fun way of doing this where if you're worried about, do I like this object because the celebrity likes it, or do I like it for its in its own right? Cut out the face of a celebrity you really hate and put it over the celebrity you like, and it kind of counteracts it. And then you can find out whether you actually like the object, because it's going to be in your life. It should represent your values, not anyone else's.
I've definitely done that. Bought something because I want to be a bit more like Jennifer Lawrence. I mean, who doesn't?
It's true, and it's an incredibly compelling thing, but often what happens is that you end up with something that doesn't necessarily suit you or doesn't suit anything else in your house, and then you end up slightly resenting it. So it's about researching your own style rather than trying to emulate someone else's.
So tonight, I'm going to go home, throw out pretty much everything I have. Then that doesn't comply with my values, and I've basically bought because I want to be Jennifer Lawrence. How do I then begin rebuilding my tableware collection, for example?
It's important to remember that the most eco-friendly objects are the objects that you already own, because nothing new had to be made. So don't go chucking out all of your stuff to replace it with eco-friendly things, because that's completely anathema. But what I think is great is that you can mix and match your old things with other pieces from a Denby collection, for example, because they are so steeped in this history and they have such a classic, timeless appeal that that you're not going to end up in a situation where it's out of style. And I think this is a trap that a lot of people fall into. They buy into trends. And actually, if you get something that's trendy, inverted commas, then it's far more likely to go out of style really quickly. So investing in more classic pieces and mixing them in with maybe vintage pieces that you already have, that's a way to kind of build up a collection that really has a long-term staying power.
You mentioned a product that could go from, was it the freezer to the oven? Is that what you said? In what other ways can you use ceramics in multiple ways?
Versatility is absolutely key when you're thinking about buying sustainably and for the long term. If you can buy one object that can do several things, then obviously it means that you end up overall only needing fewer pieces. So that's much more sustainable way to buy. So, with Denby, because of the amazing glazes that they use and the fact that they fire their stoneware at really high temperatures, it means that you can get pieces that can go into a freezer, that can go into an oven and look good on the table as well. And so if you only have one piece that can do all those things, then obviously it's much better all round.
You talk about having classic items. To what extent is the brand behind the product, the company behind the product, important?
For me, this is absolutely vital. And I think wonderfully, more and more people are interested in the companies behind the brands. It's not okay anymore to just buy a whole load of stuff from a brand that might be using sweatshops in China. And actually, you've seen this real rise of ethics in consumerism, and it's about time. So for me, it's absolutely crucial to look into a company and what they're doing. And this is why I really appreciate companies like Denby, who are local. You can go and visit their factory. You can see the people behind it. You know that every piece that they make are kind of handled by the people in the factory like 20 times to make sure that the quality is really wonderful. And it's these types of companies and these types of stories that are actually increasingly rare. And I think that it's up to the consumer to vote with our wallets and really get behind the companies that are doing it right. And this is my real passion with Buy Me Once, is to bring these companies to light.
So if you're going to buy something that is designed to last, you have to make sure it goes with everything that you have and that you like it. How do you make sure you do that? Because I've bought stuff and got it home and got, that's really quite revolting. What was I doing?
Well, I mean, I think a lot, and it goes back to this impulse buying. I think a lot of us are kind of sucked up in the moment because we see a wonderful display in a shop, or we see something online and it looks so wonderful in the pictures. And then we get it into our own environment and it just doesn't go. And this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about researching our own life. And I would encourage people to build mood boards for your own life. So what I say is that you should go to somewhere with loads of images like Google Images, or go through magazines, and for the first 10 minutes, just look at colour scheme, just look at the colours that pop out at you, make a note of them, start pulling off pictures and putting them all in the same place. And then maybe for the next 10 minutes, start looking at texture and pattern. And the next 10 minutes, start looking at era and style. And throughout that process, you then get a real overarching sense of what you like, and building up a theme for your home that you can then refer to every time that you buy something, so that you don't end up in a situation where nothing really works with anything else.
Do you have a mood board?
I do have several mood boards, both on Pinterest and just in my folders on my computer, because it's something I like to do.
And what do they look like?
A mixture of a French bedroom and a country cottage. They're very natural and classic, with lots of natural colours and textures, and that's what I like to have around me.
I've never done one. Maybe I'll do one.
Definitely.
But I have a sense of what it would be like. It would not be anything like that.
Be slightly schizophrenic. Maybe. I'd really like to see your mood board.
I feel like it would be primary colours and clean lines.
It definitely would be. We'd have like the opposite mood board, which is really funny because we're such good friends.
Does that mean we can never live together?
Yes, I'm afraid it does.
We don't have separate kitchens.
We would have to draw a line down the middle of our house if we lived together, and you could have your like bold Mondrian on one side and I'd have my like shabby chic on the other, and never the twain should meet.
Maybe we should live next door then.
Definitely.
Sure. I mean, yeah. Okay, great. Glad we've arranged that. So if you're trying to invest in something, once you've done your mood board and you've figured out what you like and you don't buy stuff that's revolting, which I've definitely done, how can you tell if it's actually going to last?
When it comes to finding things that last, obviously this is what we do every day at Buy Me Once. What we look at is what materials is the product made out of, first and foremost, because there's always going to be some materials that are better than other materials when it comes to durability. What is the construction of the product? So, for example, where's the weakest link usually in a product? If it's a frying pan, is the handle going to wobble or the non-stick wear out? And therefore, which are the brands that are doing the most to undermine those weakest links? And then thirdly, like the warranty is often a really great place to go to get a rule of thumb for which brands are doing the most in the durable space. So the reason why Denby is a Buy Me Once product is because first, materials-wise, they use some of the highest quality stoneware clay, which they literally dig out of the ground behind their factory, and they've been using that for 200 years. And then they have patented or secret ceramic glazes that they use to make their ceramics more durable than other brands. And they back all this with an amazing 10-year warranty, which means that if anything goes wrong with your Denby product, then they will replace it. And that's pretty much, best in class when you talk about, ceramic ware. And that's what we do at Buy Me Once. We find the best in class in each product category.
I love a 10-year warranty.
Yes.
I mean, I say I love a 10-year warranty. There aren't many of them out there.
There really aren't. And it's very interesting when you're looking for brands on Buy Me Once. Sometimes brands just bubble to the surface really quickly. It's a bit like panning for gold. And with Denby, they were one of the brands that immediately kind of bobbed to the surface. It's one of the brands that are doing the most in the area to compete on quality. So that's why we appreciate them.
I was very annoyed recently when I bought some bowls from a very reputable company, who I shall not name for defamatory purposes, even though this is true.
Okay.
And I maybe had 10 bowls.
Yeah.
And about 4 of them have got massive chips on them.
Yes.
That's annoying. And I'm trying to kind of embrace that and live with it, but it's annoying.
It's very annoying. And this has happened in my family too. Again, the brands will remain nameless, but we've had whole sets of tableware where almost all of it is becoming unusable in a very short space of time. And it's such a waste of money. It's such a waste of the world's resources. And it makes me quite angry now that brands are putting quality like that out into the world, because it's almost a disposable product. A couple of years out of ceramic ware is not acceptable. And it's, great to see brands like Denby bucking the trend.
I really love the sound of the top secret clays.
Yes.
And the idea that there are these people behind the factory just like digging out clay. Can you tell me a bit more about that? And can we go and visit?
Absolutely. Well, it's in Derbyshire, which is my favourite county because Mr. Darcy's from there. Such a nerd. Yes. It's amazing because apparently there was this road built next to the factory back in the Victorian times. And in order to build the road, they needed to excavate a whole load of clay. And this has created this amazing kind of situation where you have a whole pile of clay sitting just behind a factory. So they're not importing a whole load of stuff from across the world. Their materials are coming from right next to the factory. So if you think about, air miles, it's absolutely brilliant because you're getting the clay literally out of the ground next to the factory, turning it into something beautiful and then putting it out into the world. And especially, if you live in England, that then makes it an incredibly eco-friendly product. And I really approve that. I'm afraid I can't give you any more detail on the top secret glaze because it's top secret. But what we do know is that it makes the pottery unique from a pattern point of view. So it's kind of unreplicatable from that point of view. But it also makes the pottery incredibly durable. And that's obviously what we really care about at Buy Me Once.
Is it? Or is it really Mr. Darcy? I'm not sure. Okay. I've really enjoyed, apart from the top secret the tips. And I was wondering whether you could share any more about anything really, but particularly how to live sustainably, because I really want to do that. I really want to be better. And I feel like I'm quite good, but there's always scope for improvement.
What I think is really exciting right now is that everyone's become far more aware of plastic and actually cutting down on plastic, which is so important. We know now that we're ingesting a kind of credit card's worth of plastic, every week or something. That's absolutely foul. And we really need to start cutting down on the amount of plastic that we have in our lives in general. And I think the kitchen is a really great place to start with that. So, for example, replacing cling film, which, traditionally we've been putting around everything and over anything, and it's very much one use and we throw it away. There are some amazing alternatives to that now, and you can use beeswax wraps, which use the warmth of your hands to close around an object like an avocado or over a bowl, and you can just wash it in cold water after you've used it. So looking for other areas in your life where you might have plastic solutions and making the switch to ceramic or glass or, some material options. I think that is my top tip, is to try and cut down on that throwaway plastic.
I have a water bottle that I'm using all the time, and I feel quite smug when I use that, because not only am I being good for the environment, but I'm also saving money on buying water.
Yeah, it's insane that we pay for water. I have a cousin that works for a water company, and he's like, the water that we get in England is absolutely brilliant most of the time. So actually drinking tap water is absolutely fine. And using a reusable cup is saving billions of water bottles every year if everyone did it. So you should feel smug.
Thanks, I will. Another area I think that can lead to a lot of wastage is gift buying. How do you minimise that wastage?
Well, I think gift buying has almost become a nationwide obsession. I mean, I know this because almost every time someone comes to my house, they bring me something and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And it actually, I think, is quite detrimental to think that every time we go and see someone that we need to get them something, whereas actually having experiences with people is not only more environmentally friendly, it actually forges stronger connections. But I think that if you are going to buy something for someone, one, I think you want to know that they're going to keep it in their life for a really long time. And that's where knowing the person and thinking about their life in the same way as you've thought about your life is really important. So you might get them something that can become an heirloom in their life, and maybe pair that with something local that they can eat at the time, so they have the immediate gratification, but then also the long-term satisfaction of a product that lasts a really long time. And something like a lovely Denby dish, which is then has the local cheeses on it. It shows a real knowledge of the person that's going to eat it, but it needs to be tailored to that person. I think so often we buy things that are just designed to be a cheap laugh when someone opens the present. And, we all know those gift shops where there are all these novelty items where, yes, they create a little bit of a giggle for that person, but then they just sit in a drawer or on a shelf for, a couple of years until that person's like, I don't know what to do with this anymore. I'm going to give it away, and no one really wants it. So I think that's a real waste of just atoms in the world. So, get things that are, yes, beautiful, but also meaningful and useful, things that people can use again and again.
You mentioned regifting.
Yes.
Can we talk about that? Am I allowed to regift things that I don't like?
Yes, immediately.
Really?
Immediately. I would say that one of the mistakes that a lot of people make is when they're given a gift that they don't like, they hold on to it for 2 years until it's done its time. And even if they hate it, they'll put it on a shelf and they won't use it. And it'll just sit there, making them feel guilty about the fact that they hate this present from someone, which is obviously not the point that the present gift gifter wanted. The fact that this present has then become this negative force in the house. So I said, rather than having this product in your life for 2 years, give it away immediately. It's done its duty as a gift. It's been given to you. You can say thank you very much, but then donate it or sell it or pass it on. If you have a good enough relationship. So say if it was you, I would just say, you know what, Laura, thank you so much for this hideous thing. It's never going to fit into my life. So could I possibly have the receipt, and can I switch it out for this thing that's similar and has the same purpose, but I will actually use all the time and it will kind of fit into my life. If it's someone like some members of my family who I definitely couldn't do this, you just say thank you very much, and then you pass it on to someone who will actually use it, because otherwise it's just being wasted in your house, and it makes you feel guilty. So it's a negative emotionally, it's negative for the planet, and someone else could be making use of it. So definitely regift.
So next time I give you a gift that I've really carefully thought about,
yes,
I've got to make sure I've got the receipt. I can't re-gift to you because you might ask me for the receipt. So I give you this gift that I've spent hours agonising over.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, you're going to say to my face,
yeah,
sorry, Laura, this is rank. No, seriously, because what I do is I get a gift and I'm like, that is a bit gross. And then I store it for ages and then eventually take it to a charity shop. All that time storing it in quite a small living space, really. So if I could just be quite brutal at that moment, it'd be much easier.
Well, I don't think it's about being brutal. I think we can probably be brutal to each other because we're good enough friends. But I think for most people, it's a question of saying, thanks so much. I really, appreciate you giving me this. You don't necessarily have to lie and say you love it, but then
I already have a poodle ornament, so you can have yours back.
Yes. I think it's, about then passing it on to someone that will use it, because the worst thing in the world is just having, in a small flat, taking up space, this item that makes you feel bad and makes you feel bad about the person that gave it to you as well. So, cleanse yourself of those items. They're just a drain on you.
I'm going to do that tonight.
You're getting rid of a lot of things today.
I know. I'll be dropping it round to yours.
Thanks so much.
So would you advise the same approach when you're given a rank gift that someone has made?
Oh, that's a tough one, Nora. I mean, if somebody has made me a gift, I would argue that gift in itself holds meaning, and I'd be much, much less likely to give it away. And I will give you a example of this. You made me a crown for my last birthday out of cardboard and lots of stick-on gems. Yeah. And, as an object, I wouldn't say it's the classiest thing in my life. It's a cardboard.
How could you? Those are gems, like actual gems.
Actual
made of
plastic gems.
Oh, plastic.
But because you made it, it holds pride of place in my bedroom. And, maybe that says something weird about me. But I treasure it because you made it for me. So I think making something for someone actually almost overrides, that problem, because it is going to hold meaning if you've made it and if you've really thought about it. So I would encourage more people to make the effort to make gifts for their friends.
Yeah, but I made you a crown, and you've basically just told me you're only keeping it because of sentimental value, when I think it's a really beautiful crown, and I think it really adds value and makes you look super glam, but apparently that's not why I'm keeping it.
Well, the next time I'm feeling particularly queenie, I'll take it out and wear it, and it'll be very useful to me.
I don't know why you're not wearing it right now.
It's true. I should have worn it today. Sorry.
So I guess the counter argument to that is, I'm too busy. I don't have enough time. I can't make people stuff, not least because they don't appreciate the crowns when I make them. So I'm just going to buy them something.
What you want to do is make sure that you're not buying something for the sake of buying something. Think about it. I would argue that it's better to buy nothing and just say, I'm going to take you out for dinner, or I'm going to do something for you, than to buy something kind of as a panic buy. We've all had these panic buys, like, oh God, I haven't got anything for so-and-so. And you just grab the nearest thing that isn't complete crap. And I think that is a really damaging thing to do. So really thinking about something that person is able to keep and use for the long term, but then also, pairing it with something, it only needs to be something small and handmade, and even just collecting together things that person likes to eat or likes to drink is a way of making something that's an overall collection, without actually having to kind of get into the paper mache. And, the thing to remember is that, if you don't have time to hand make a gift, then look to others who have already handmade the gift. So one of the lovely things that I know about Denby is that every piece goes through about 20 pairs of hands. It is literally a handmade product, even though it's such, wonderfully high quality. And I think just knowing that there's that human touch behind it makes it just a bit more meaningful. And I wish all gifts were a bit more like that.
I like the idea of challenging myself to make you the most rank things possible. Because I know you're not going to throw them out.
Oh God, what have I set myself up for? Thanks, Laura.
No, thank you for the idea. I've got a question about weddings. I went to a friend's wedding recently, and I obviously was a bit slow to get to the wedding list. And this is a good friend of mine. And all that really was left was like some item that was really, really expensive, or a laundry basket. So for their wedding, I bought them a laundry basket, and that felt really sad and, a bit. And now whenever I go around, I see this laundry basket. I think, wow, good luck with your future life. Here's something to store your dirty clothes. Do you have any advice for wedding lists and how to kind of incorporate everything that you've suggested into a wedding list? So things that last, things that are classic, things that have great warranties, things from companies that you trust.
Well, I think if you are the person getting married and you're building a wedding list, then this is exactly those things that you need to be thinking about. And I would actually, put perhaps a little bit less on the list than you think, because I think it's really tempting. And, I had this experience 2 years ago when I got married of going around a big shop with your kind of scanner gun and, yeah, I mean, luckily, my husband is more restrained than me, because I think I would have definitely over zapped and ended up with actually things that, because you feel like you're getting free stuff, that I just wouldn't have used. And I think that really, again, thinking about what you as a couple want your life to be, what kind of gatherings are you going to have? How many people are you going to have in your household? What type of meals are you going to have? And what type of cooking are you going to eat? And building up your homeware around your actual life, I think, is absolutely key. And, since our wedding, we've gone back and we've topped up with the same brand, and we've gone back and gone, back for a couple more plates and a couple more spoons, because we realised we only had 4 and we had 8 people over, and gradually we've managed to build them up. So I would say under list rather than over list if you're building the list yourself. But if you're buying for people, then I wouldn't worry about going off list. And that might be controversial, but I think if you know the people well and you know what kind of things that they like, then you should feel reasonably confident going off list.
So I always go off list, basically.
Yes, of course
because I don't want to buy someone a towel or a laundry basket. And I actually always buy them ceramics. But on this occasion, I was specifically told not to go off list.
Right.
If you're told specifically not to go off list, can you still go to Denby and then provide them with some really lovely ceramics made from magical clay just behind, and a top secret glaze and a 10-year warranty, and go, look, I've got better taste than you. I know you wanted a laundry basket, but this is better. And here's the receipt if you don't want it.
I think if you give them the receipt, then that's absolutely fine. If you think that you're genuinely adding value to their life, and you know them well enough to be able to make that call, then do it and try it. But then do give them the receipt, because the last thing you want is for them to go, you know what, we don't know what to do with this, and this ends up making us feel guilty in, from the back of their cupboard. Otherwise, just, everyone needs a laundry basket. I wouldn't feel too bad about that.
I mean, on the plus side, they do use it.
Yes.
It's just not really what I hoped to give them to wish them into their future lives.
Sure.
Some beautiful ceramics would have been much better.
I remember you got me beautiful ceramics. And we use them. And
ceramics.
It's great.
Not laundry baskets.
Yeah.
Another question I have about gifting is gift wrap. So I gift wrap when I can be bothered to gift wrap in the first place, which isn't all the time, in newspaper.
Yes.
And that some people are a bit ungrateful about that. And they're like, you couldn't even be bothered to get me gift wrap. And I'm like, I think A, it's a waste of money, and B, it's bad for the environment. What is your view about gift wrap?
Well, I would be very honoured if you gave me a newspaper gift wrap. So I think, those people need to check themselves. But I do believe in reusable gift wrap, which is slightly weird and controversial in some ways, but it works quite well between families. If you have some fabric, or we have a brand at Buy Me Once called Rag Wrap, where you have, it's actually reusable wrapping paper, which is kind of crinkly and it's made out of recycled bottles. And you can wrap it around a present with the kind of stretchy bungee cord. And it makes a really lovely gift wrapped present, but then you can reuse the paper that's not quite paper again and again and again. And it means that you don't end up with that massive bin bag full of wrapping paper at Christmas. And I hate that now. So either reuse newspaper, or use fabric, or an actual reusable wrapping paper like rag wrap, definitely.
So if I were to be using that, would I give you some of the regifting stuff that I'm planning on doing? That tea set that I don't like. So I could wrap that up, give it to you, and then say, can I have the wrapping back? Thanks.
Well, that's why it works quite well between families, because then this wrapping paper kind of circulates between the families. If obviously it can get a little bit expensive if you're buying reusable wrapping paper and giving it away every time. That's where the actually finding the right pages of a newspaper is really good. If you can get really colourful pages or nice adverts from a newspaper, then they can make quite cool wrapping paper options. I
think, though, that with the increasing consciousness around plastics and waste and sustainability, that it would maybe be okay to give a gift and say, by the way, this is reusable gift wrapping, give it back.
Yeah. Why not? You could pull it off. Definitely.
And if they don't like it, well, maybe they're not friends of mine anymore.
Absolutely.
And I'll have the gift back as well. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Tara. I have genuinely learned a hell of a lot, and will be going home and clearing out all of my belongings and then bringing them over to you and wrapping them in sustainable wrapping before taking that back again. Before we go, I wondered whether there was anything that you wanted people to remember. So if they zoned out because we were really boring, what is the one thing you want them to make sure they take away?
Well, the one thing I'm absolutely passionate about getting the world to focus on, and what has been so overlooked up until now, is the fact that product longevity is one of the most overlooked solutions to climate change, and goodness knows we need solutions. So if you're buying for the long term, it's one of the best things you can do for the environment. So to give you an example, if you got a t-shirt, the average t-shirt, to last just 9 months longer, you save 20 to 30% on your carbon emissions, on water waste, and on pollution. And that's just one t-shirt lasting 9 months longer. So imagine all of the products, and we own like hundreds of thousands of products in our own homes. Imagine all of them lasting longer, maybe substantially longer, and the carbon savings there are absolutely immense. So making that connection between product longevity and the environment is key to me, and I want to get that message out loud and clear.
That is so amazing. I'm tempted to write it out and put it like in my wallet before I take my card out to buy something, or on my computer screen before I can just one click buy Yeah, more rubbish.
I mean, I kind of want to staple it to
My forehead.
Yeah, well, if I could, yeah, that'd be excellent. And then you could just walk around and people would then definitely know.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to see very much. It might be very painful, but fine. If it will save the planet, Tara, I'll do it.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. I'm really interested by the beeswax. I'm going to get myself some of that. And I'm going to drive over to yours and give you all the crap that I don't want.
Definitely not what I had in mind.
But I think it's a happy outcome, isn't it, for everyone? Because I get rid of my stuff and then you can practice your
regifting.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you can give it to me and I can immediately give it to people more worthy. Excellent. Good plan.
Thank you for all your brains. I'm really not kidding when I say I'm genuinely going to go and clear stuff out for a long time and give it all to you.
Oh, I look forward to that. Thanks so much, Laura.
We hope you enjoyed listening. If you'd like to find out more about Denby's Conscious Choice campaign, visit denbypottery.com/conscious-choice or follow Denby on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. If you've enjoyed this episode of Denby Stories, then please subscribe to the Denby Stories podcast on any free podcast app, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify and Stitcher. And we'd love it if you could leave us a review. Thanks for listening.